Allie. Join me as I show you how to create this Bees Knees Pendant made from an original form here at Potomac Beads. If you need the form, want to check out the crystals or any of the supplies, go ahead and look below the video. In the description, we'll have a link there that you can look at everything on our site. Gather up your materials and let's get started. So to create this Bees Knees Pendant, we're going to be using some brick stitch, and then we're going to fill in some of that brick stitch. We're also going to be sewing in between our little places of our honeycomb. We're using a Potomac's laser cut form here, and I want to make you aware that on the back there's going to be a paper. The paper here is used to cover the project and to make it so that it doesn't get scratched and all of that. You can peel at it and pick at it and pick at it. My best advice here is to take your needle, go underneath the corner of the pattern here, or the paper rather. You can usually see where it is, and then you get underneath it and you just pull up that paper and take it all off. When you pull off the paper and take it off, you're going to see a lovely light colored wood on one side and the dark color on the other side. So you can wear it either sides, light or dark, when you're looking at it, and it gives a whole different look, especially because the beads kind of work almost like a stained glass on the one side, depending on which side you sew them into. Lighter or darker, you have your two options. So the first thing I'm going to do is, because of the laser cut, I'm going to go through with a paper towel and just kind of take the paper towel around the edge and get rid of any of that black residue. It's usually not a ton, but a little bit will come off. Go ahead and take a paper towel, do that, and then we'll get ready by adding our crystals to the interior first, and then we'll do our brick stitch around the outer edge. So to get started, here I use the gold dragon thread. You can see that golden section along the lines because you really don't see the gold when you hold it on the back section. It almost matches perfectly with that light wood. On this second sample, just to see the difference of the black thread, I'm going to use the black thread on the interior. I have the size 8 dragon thread here with a size 10 needle. I'm going to go to the end of the dragon thread, and I have about 2 feet of thread for the interior. We're going to use 2 different pieces here. And I'm going to tie it to the lowest block here of the honeycomb on the side. So I'm taking the thread through the piece. You can see I have it right here next to my bee, and I'm just going to tie it around that last little section. And it doesn't need to be tied amazingly. Basically 2 little ties will do it. We're going to go through and we are going to actually burn this down on the thread edge and get rid of that. So from here, what we are going to do is we're going to decorate the interior of our honeycombs. Now, if you're doing a matching set, because you can wear them as earrings, they're a little bit big and fun. They're not too heavy. You could totally wear them as earrings too, decorated or not decorated. We're going to be using 4mm beads. On the sides, I'm using bicones because you can see it's not a full honeycomb. For the full honeycombs, I'm going to embrace that bright yellow 4mm round. So I have some of the sun color, I have some of the light topaz, and the yellow all honey colors. To add the first one here, I'm going to go with my topaz, or my champagne rather. I'm going to put my bead on after tying it there, and we're going to go over to the next block here. So through the next block with our thread, and then we're going to go back up through the block that we just came out of. So we're just basically doing a little loop around. And see how that holds that bead down? Next I'm going to do another bead. Coming out the top, we're going to put our bead on the thread, kind of tuck it down into that block, go through the next block, loop around here, back through the block your thread was coming out of originally, and give it a nice tight pull. See how that just gets those honeycomb beads right in there? You can switch up the color if you want to, going in and picking up that 4mm in the sunflower, which is a little bit darker here, letting that rest in and on top. So through the next hole, it's really simple, loop around the form, coming back through the one that you're working on, and there you have it. I'm going to go up here, around and down the honeycomb, and then back around and come on through. On the corner, the bead will sit a little bit up because it's the smallest honeycomb here. So you're going through here, doing your honeycomb in the corner there, once again going through. And then where you have the bigger honeycomb openings, you can tell, and if you want to, you can pop in that nice round bead. 3mm beads will also fit in here. I'm using 4 just because a lot of us have a ton of 4s. When you're looking then also, you can see that on the back it almost looks like a stained glass window with that color coming. Looking at the back, you can see the difference of the white thread versus the dark thread when I hold it up to the light there. This one here, you can see the black thread going through the beads a tiny bit. Go ahead and continue linking on. Again, we're going to kind of come down and around and circle up so we don't have too many points of crossover. I'm going to show you how I'm going to come, we're going to go up to the top here, over and down, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to sneak back up towards the middle. Once you get to the bottom of the form here, what I've done to go up towards the center of the honeycomb, and you can keep this open down here if you want to really display the bee, or you can fill it in like I've done on the sample piece. I'm going to fill it in a little bit, and I've gone through my last little honeycomb down here on the side, and what I did was loop around, come back up, and I looped through that empty space one more time. So you can see the thread there twisted a tiny bit around the form, and then I'm going to come back up through. I've got a nice area here, and I can put that nice yellow bead. I'm going to put these beads along the edge then, going through the next form that I'm intending to loop onto. And then I'm going to cross over to this next one here. When you cross over to the next one, if you ever have to get from the form to another place and the bead sits a little funky, like if I go right here, the bead's going to pop out the side a little bit. What I'm going to do is go through the form, up through the top here, and then I'm going to go through the bead. We're going to do the same thing along the top to get that top one to sit down a little bit, going through the bead, and then just pretend that you're just going through the bead, going through the next form, and through the next empty hole. I'm going to add all my bright yellows in now, here, here. When I get to here, go through the bead, just like as if you were putting it on for the first time. Come on down here, we're going to sneak over to the middle, to the bottom, and then we're going to continue to decorate all the way to the bottom, looping through the side of our honeybee wing. Once you're done decorating all your little honeycombs, I decided I'm going to keep that one open. I think it's kind of fun and it shows off my bee a little bit more. I wanted to flip over and just show you the difference between the black and the golden cord. You can see it a little bit, but it doesn't make a huge difference or deal. In the original piece, I went in and I tied off the thread once I got back to the space and started with a new black thread, tying it around the exterior of the form. Since I'm using the black anyway, I decided I'll just keep it on and I'll start my brick stitch around the outside here. If you don't want to do the brick stitch, simply tie the threads together and then you put your little topper on there with your cord and you're finished. The light shines through as you're wearing it, and as it's moving, they actually make really cute earrings. You could also do the same thing if you wanted to with seed beads as well. I'm going to be using some 8/0s and some 15/0s. The 15/0s are not necessary. I just want to brighten up the exterior edge. We're going to be doing brick stitch, and we're going to work towards the point at the bottom and continue on. Your number here is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 beads per side. I'm starting in the middle of a side. I'm going to pick up 2 beads to start our brick stitch. Coming out through the bottom of the form here. I'm going to go into the bottom of the form and through the next open space. Those 2 beads are going to kind of lay at the top. I'm going to sew back through bead number 2 toward bead number 1. And that's going to lay it right there and open. Now you'll notice I didn't put the seed beads there. That's because I wanted you to learn the brick stitch before we got into the seed beads. Now what we're going to do is add 2 of our 15s and pick up 1 8/0 seed bead. We'll have an opportunity to make up and add those seed beads later. If you know brick stitch, go ahead and add 2 seed beads right there between your 8s. Now, from now on, we are going to use the 15s to decorate the outside of the thread, because you're going to see that black thread there as what's called a bridge thread. Our gold seed beads, in count of 2, are going to decorate the exterior and hide some of that thread. You're going to add 1 more 8/0 seed bead, sew back through the form. Where to sew back through the form is going to depend on where you are on the piece. Look and see where you can get the thread the most straight when you come back up through the 8/0 bead, not the 15s, just the 8, and have it lay next to the last one. When you get down to the corner here and you have all of your beads in place, you're going to use 3 seed beads instead of 2. So all those little corner places, you're going to pick up 1, 2, and 3 seed beads, and then your next 8/0. I'm going to hop over to the next side, and I'm going to put in my first bead there, that's going to link from one to the other and go back up through that 8-0 and pull. Once again then here, add 1 and 2 of your 15s, 1 8, sew through the next portion of the form, and then go back up through that 8-0 seed bead. You're going to continue this on the whole sides of your honeycomb. So you're going to see you're just doing this nice and sewing fashion, going through, adding your 8, making sure our tail doesn't get in there. Give a nice little tight pull so we don't see a lot of extra thread. 2 15s, 8, go through the next section wherever you think is appropriate. Don't overthink it. And if you only get 6 beads in, not a big deal. The 7 will mean that your beads are sitting very close together. You can again, once again, eliminate the 15s if you don't want to see them in their place. You're just going around and adding in your beads there. You can tell that my left hand that I'm holding the form with, I push the thread up. What this allows to do is that bead that I'm adding, that 8-0, never goes below the form and kind of gets tucked in. So you can see I push that up so that way it never falls back below. It always goes towards the top. And then I go through that 8 and come back up. Now I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got one more bead to add in my grouping of 7. Just kind of let them organize. Don't worry too much if your 15-0s aren't in a line, because we're going to come back through and sew through them all if you want to. You don't have to. 2 beads go on. I'm not going to make the turn. I'm going through that same area. My next bead will make that turn. So once again, I wanted to get here to that next turn, because when I'm doing the turn here, instead of 2 seed beads, I'm going to add 3 of my 15-0 seed beads. 1, 2, 3 beads. Then you're going to go in, add your 8, and that's going to start the next side. The form is equal, so each side will get those 7 beads, and then you'll know that it's time to add your 3 seed beads instead of 2. If you forget and add 2, no big deal. We're going to come through again and link all of those seed beads together. Go ahead and do your brick stitch the whole way back around, and I'll help you solve the issue when we get back to the front, how to connect to the bottom one that you've already added. Once you get back to the start of the piece here, what you want to do is grab 2 15s. You're going to go down through bead number 1, loop around the design, come back up through bead number 1, and I'm going to go along the back here just so you can see I'm coming back up through bead number 1. When I'm back up through bead number 1 now, I can add in those seed beads, adding in 1 and 2 seed beads and going back through bead number 2, around my form, back up through bead number 2, and this gives you a hint as to how I go through and do this efficiently, going up and down and back through and all of that. Now what I'm going to do is go around the outer side. If you don't want to go around the outer side, tie off your thread end, weaving it back towards the interior, and you are finished. If you do want to go around the exterior, so here's one without going around the exterior, here's one going through the exterior. I'm not going to go through the exterior here for this one that I'm doing, just so that way you can see the difference in the two, going through and having it stabilized and then having it around the whole exterior edge. When you go around the whole exterior edge, all you're doing very simply is taking your needle and thread through the 15s, grouped 2 at a time, add one more 15, go through your next grouping. This one happens to be a 3. Add another 15, go through the next 2. So all you're doing is adding a 15 in between each one of your grouped 15s, getting back down to the bottom and tying off. If you don't want that much of a border on it, you can do what I'm going to do here. I'm going to show those 2 differences because that one's really simple. I'm going to go back through my 15 there along the top. I'm going to weave down through my 8 there along the bottom. And I did add, because I wasn't planning on using the same thread, just to let you know, I did add a little bit more thread. So if you're doing the whole piece with that black thread like I'm doing here, you're going to want more, about 3.5 feet. Once you weave back through here, up and down the beads, you're going to get back to where the thread started. Simply tie those 2 thread ends together, right over left and left over right. Once those are tied together, you're just simply going to take your thread burner and burn your thread off. And then I'm going to show you how I love to finish some of these pendants with this waxed linen or cotton cord that is already pre-finished. You can take it off, you can keep it on. It's just a really great way to finish up your piece because you can have multiple pieces. These are sold in 5-packs. I think they're great. This one is the brown cord that I have it on, matching the wood. And here I grabbed the black cord to put it on this sample piece. So the cord itself is a finished cord. So how are you getting it through? What I like to do is pinch the cord in the middle of the piece. Once I pinch the cord, I'm going to take it through my big opening hole here of my form. Now I want to go over 2 different ways. So the way that I'm putting it through right now, you can see that it's going to have the 2 cords come up in the front here in the center. The way that I put it on, bringing it through from the back to the front, has it that you see the loop at the top. So that's where you're getting the 2 different loop looks. Once you take that through there, you're going to drop your finished cord, ends back through that loop, and there you have the pendant. So you can see the 2 different looks of just depends on where you take the cord through. They get separated out then, and then if you decide you want to wear a different pendant or a different form, you just take it off and put the next one on. And that finishes up your Bees Knees pendant. I love that you can really see it when the light's kind of shining behind through there, and when it's on your skin, you're going to have that same effect. You can also wear it on the opposite side if you have something lighter that you're wearing, and it gives that nice effect of that stained glass window. Thanks so much for joining me for this Bees Knees pendant. It's really fun to take some of these laser cut forms, decorate them, and kind of make them your own. I can't wait to see everybody's color options and color choices. I also think it would be really cool to take a little bee that you've made out of brick stitch and hang that off as well too. So a little challenge, some bead charms on it as well. As always, if you need any materials, go ahead and look below the video. You can also check out all of the other forms that we have that you can decorate as well to make matching earrings or even as the center of a bracelet. As always, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Thanks for joining in the Bees Knees, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.